NASCAR is a unique sport when it comes to its schedule and venues. During a typical season, they will visit 25 plus unique tracks to make up their marathon of a schedule. There have been tracks on the schedule from the beginning, tracks that have held their first Cup Series races in the last couple of years, tracks that once held races and are now abandoned, world-renowned tracks, and everything in between. Hi, I'm your host Matt, and this is NASCAR Track History, presented by Dogleg Media. In this series, we look to tell the stories of each of those unique tracks. We explore a wide range of topics in respect to the track, when and why it was built, track records, drivers who got their first career wins at the track, memorable moments from you, the fans, and so much more. We go in alphabetical order, and today we explore all that Dover Motor Speedway has to offer. The Monster Mile. Watch out for Miles. He has a reputation for tearing up some race cars. But with that intro out of the way, let's dive into some more NASCAR track history. So here's a fun dogleg fact. Dover is my all-time favorite track. I promise it's not because a certain someone dominated the place, but let's look at some basic Dover stats. The track was built in 1969, and it's held 105 total races. The track is a 1-mile concrete oval, and it's seen 39 unique winners in its time. In 1966, the Melvin L. Joseph Construction Company began construction on the Speedway, which was specialized for horse racing and auto racing. The track was completed 3 years later and would have its first race on July 6, 1969. Something neat about Dover that I didn't know was how heavily it was involved in gaming and horse racing. How I never knew that there was a 0.6 of a mile horse racing track inside the Monster Mile is wild to me. The track would open under the name Dover Downs International Speedway and would hold this name until 2002. The gaming side of Dover Downs would separate from the racing side, and Dover Motorsports Inc. would form to operate the track. It would drop the Downs part of the name and be known as Dover International Speedway until fairly recently in 2021. Speedway Motorsports would purchase Dover Motorsports Inc. and has operated the track since 2022. They would rename the track to Dover Motor Speedway, its current name. There isn't much to talk about in the way of different configurations, as the track has stayed the same for the most part. The largest change would come to the racing surface itself. Much like its little brother Bristol, Dover would follow in its footsteps and ditch the asphalt surface in favor of concrete. They would do this in 1995, and it has been that way ever since. In 2021, NASCAR would move one of Dover's dates to another track owned by Dover Motorsports at the time, Nashville Superspeedway. While I love Nashville as well, for it to come at the expense of a Dover date definitely hurt me. And of course you can't talk about Dover without mentioning Miles. But here's a fun fact. Before Miles was the mascot of the Monster Mile, the track would have another catchphrase and mascot. After the track would switch from asphalt to concrete in 1995, they would use the tagline White Lightning in reference to the track's appearance. Also, I found this t-shirt from the 90s with this super cool half dinosaur, half Godzilla monster on it. I guess he was the monster before Miles. If anyone can tell me if this guy had a name, I would definitely love to know. Drop it in the comments section down below. The track would adopt Miles in 2000, and he's on pretty much everything to do with Dover Motor Speedway. I mean heck, he even made his way onto the thumbnail for this video. I've never been to Dover. It's definitely a bucket list track for me, and I can't wait to see all 46 feet of Miles standing guard outside the Speedway. The track has seen at least one race on the schedule since 1969, and from 1971 until 2020, it would see 2 a year. I'm not hopeful that we get a second Dover date back, but man, I can hope. Now let's move to the drivers who got their first wins at the track, and spoiler alert, it's a short list. So yeah. This is by far the shortest list of drivers to get their first career wins at a track that we have ever had. And it's not from a lack of races either, as there have been 105 races at the Monster Mile. We only have 2 drivers who got their first career wins at the Concrete Mile. Ironically, there are double that number of drivers to get their last career wins at the track, so we will also cover them today to make up for a short list of first-time winners. We start with the first driver to get their first career win at Dover. It would be Jody Ridley in 1981. This would be Ridley's only career win, and it would also be the only win for Dunleavy Racing. This would be a long list of onlys, as it is still the only victory for the number 90 in the Cup Series as well. Ridley would have a great 1981 campaign for the team, scoring his and the team's only win, and finishing 5th in the standings. This was far from a sophomore slump. Ridley would win the Rookie of the Year award for the team in 1980 and would back it up very well. He would record 2 top 5s and 17 top 10s in a 31 race season. That's a super solid showing. Jody would make a total of 140 starts in the Cup Series, and to go along with his lone win, he would record 56 top 10s. And now on to the only other driver to grab their first career win at the Monster Mile, and this is a big one. Martin Truex Jr. would get win number 1 of 34 and counting here. This win would come in 2007 for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. This would also be the last victory for DEI as a team, so that's a pretty crazy stat to have. This was just the beginning for Truex, as he has turned into a champion of the sport, winning the title 10 years after this historic win. Truex has gone on to win 3 times at Dover, including a win in 2023 to snap a 54-race winless drought. Truex isn't ready to call it a career, as he has re-signed to run at least 2024 with Joe Gibbs Racing. Can he conquer miles once more before hanging it up? And now we move to drivers who got their last career wins at Dover. And first up is Derrike Cope. The benefactor of Dale Earnhardt's heartbreaking 1990 Daytona 500 woes would get his last career victory that same season at Dover. These 2 wins would be the only wins for Bob Whitcomb Racing as an organization. Cope grabbing these 2 victories was considered a major upset, as on the 1990 season they would have an average finish of 19th and would finish 18th in the standings. Outside of their 2 wins, they would record just 4 additional top 10s and 0 additional top 5s. Next up is Ken Schrader. Kenny would win his last of 4 career wins in 1991 at the Monster Mile. He would be running my favorite number, the 25, for Hendrick Motorsports. Schrader had a long Cup Series career, spanning from 1984 until 2013. At 68 years old, he still runs in the ARCA Series and the SRX Series as well. I always liked Kenny, and I had the pleasure of interviewing him before an ARCA race at Salem Speedway in 2015, and let me tell you, he's a great guy. And then we have Kyle Petty, the 3rd generation of Petty to win at NASCAR's top division. He would get the last of 8 career wins at Dover in 1995. Ronnie mentioned this win as a memorable moment. After the race, Kyle would be so exhausted that he would sit against his car and received oxygen from the medical staff. This would be Coors Light's first season as a sponsor for Petty, and he was able to get them to victory lane, so that's pretty awesome. And finally, we move on to a legend, one that hurts me to talk about. Jimmy Johnson would get his 83rd and final career win at the track he would dominate throughout his career in 2017. A year removed from becoming NASCAR's 3rd 7-time champion, he would see victory lane for the last time. I still can't believe this was the last win. Johnson would win 11 times at Dover, the most of any driver, and it certainly made it a must-watch for this Jimmy fan. Take it from me, appreciate every single win. You truly don't know when it could be the last time you'll see your guy in victory lane. I certainly didn't think this would be the end for Jimmy. Now let's move on to some track records for the Monster Mile. The first record we will talk about is the first winner. And there's no surprise here, the King, Richard Petty, would win the very first race held at Dover. All in all, Petty would win 7 times here, all of which came between 1969 and 1984, so all would come on the asphalt surface. And since we've already talked about the driver with the most wins, and I'm sure y'all don't want to hear me gush about Jimmy Johnson anymore, we will discuss the driver who had the most top 5s. Mark Martin would be super consistent at the Monster Mile, recording 24 top 5s here. Mark would also win 4 times at the track, so quite a bit of success for him as well. And that brings us to the fastest qualifying lap. Denny Hamlin would set the mark in 2019 with a 21.559 second lap. He would average 166.98 miles per hour around the 1-mile concrete oval, which is bad fast for a 1-mile track. While he wouldn't win this race, he would get his only Dover win the very next season in 2020, so he has conquered miles after all. And this next record is courtesy of the Gamer. It's the most starts at the track. This is a pretty crazy stat, but Ricky Rudd would make 56 total starts at the Monster Mile, over half of all races held at the track. Thanks for this record, this is a pretty cool one. And now we move to a couple fun records. The youngest and oldest to ever win at the track, and we're going to start with the youngest. NASCAR's most popular driver and son of legend, Bill Elliott, Chase Elliott, is the youngest to ever win at the Monster Mile. He would do so in 2018, at 22 years, 10 months, and 8 days young. Chase is a 2-time winner at the track, and he always runs well here, so I don't think that these two are the only 2 he'll ever get. And that brings us to our oldest winner, Harry Gant. Gant would win in 1992 at the age of 52 years, 4 months, and 21 days old. Gant was no slouch at the Monster Mile either, winning 4 times, all coming on the asphalt surface. Now let's move to memorable moments from you, the viewer. Duddle, Darksey, Nichols, D. Moran, Steelers, Oitzman, and Tyler mentioned the Hendrick Motorsports 1-2-3-4 sweep in 2021. This has been a memorable moment in 2 videos now, and honestly it deserves it. The only time that a 4-car team put all 4 in the top 4. This was a monster moment, capped off with Bowman winning his only Dover trophy to date. And then Hot Dog, Dominator, Duddle, Joseph, and Nichols all mentioned Jimmy Johnson's incredible qualifying save in 2006. Still to this day, one of the greatest Jimmy moments ever in my opinion. How he kept this car off the wall is still a work of magic to me. I mean, how can you watch this and not think that he is one of the best wheelmen to ever do it? Great mention. And then Steven, ATK, Oitzman, Impact, Ryan, and Darksey all mentioned the super emotional 2001 victory by Dell Jr. He would win in the first race back after the 2001 September 11th terrorist attacks. Grabbing the checkered and American flags for his burnout, this is one that America really needed. And Dell Jr. delivered in an incredibly dark year for the sport and our country. Next time out, it's Homestead Miami Speedway, so be sure to let me know your memorable moments for that one down below. And that'll do it for Dover Motor Speedway. As always, I'm prone to forgetting drivers or stats or moments. Let me know anything I may have missed for Dover in the comment section down below. We will be back next time with the history of Homestead Miami Speedway. This one has a lot of great moments as it was the season-ending race for many years. If you liked the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. It helps a ton and I definitely appreciate it. And did you know that 71% of my viewers aren't subscribed, but they are returning viewers? If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? If you haven't seen the rest of the series, the track history playlist will be linked below. Be sure to check it out. I also wanted to take some time to thank some incredible individuals for their help in making the channel so much better. Every single one of you guys are to credit, but the Dogleg team has taken time out of their day to help especially. Thanks Dice, Darksey, and The Gamer for all your hard work. It definitely doesn't go unnoticed. Be sure to check the community tab of the channel. We do cool little giveaways like autographed merch and diecasts, as well as post updates and polls for the channel. You don't want to miss it. We also have a Discord server. Check out the About section of the channel or the description below for that invite to join us over there for even more fun and learning. We're almost to 150 members, and we have great conversations every single day. You don't want to miss this. But that'll do it for us here at Dogleg Media. I'm Matt, your host, and you've been watching NASCAR Track History. I'll see you next time.